Treatment Collective vlog. Today we're going to be talking about what is developmental trauma and what's the best way to treat it. So when I think about trauma, I think about anything that overwhelms the nervous system. And when you have that broad of a definition, trauma could be anything. It's different for different people. I tell my clients a lot that, we could be riding in a car together and you get out and drive tomorrow and I get out and say, I'm never going to drive again. Basically, trauma is anything that overwhelms my nervous system. And so trauma is to you anything that overwhelms your nervous system. So that could be a single incident trauma like a car accident, or it could be chronic trauma like living in an unsafe environment like a violent community, or it could be developmental trauma, which is anything that happens to a person between utero and 18 years of age. When we're thinking about developmental trauma, it is different from treating later life trauma. Developmental trauma is also known as childhood trauma. And so it's really different to treat developmental trauma versus treating later life trauma. When I kind of think about that, I think about my experience of starting out with treating children who had experienced trauma, so survivors of trauma. And so when I was treating children, I learned a lot about, and I got to witness a lot about how trauma impacts different developmental stages. And so that's one of the first things I would consider or encourage you to consider when working with a person who has developmental trauma, is at what developmental stage did that trauma occur? And once you know that, you can also look at what stage of brain development did that trauma occur. And so when you have those two things, you can really start to create a very intricate, detailed kind of treatment plan to say, okay, we're going to start here with this client and we're going to address these things because we know that trauma impacted this client at this stage. And so more than likely that client is struggling with that particular stage of development. And so we're going to help them to kind of meet some of those milestones and have some of those experiences so that they can kind of move forward. So for example, if I'm working with a client who had utero trauma, then maybe I'm going to be working with the sense of feeling safe within the body. It's going to be more of the bottom up approaches, so more sensation kind of body-based approaches, because we know that in utero we don't have language. And so the different parts of the brain are being impacted in utero than it is if a client was having a trauma after the age of 2, which is more when clients have more language on board. So that's kind of a way of thinking about it. I put together a really nice freebie that I'd like to offer you. And it really kind of looks at developmental stages and then what are some ways that you can kind of address those different traumas. Also, I would encourage you to check out Dr. Bruce Perry, who came up with the neurosequential model of therapeutics, which is a really nice framework to kind of think about how to address trauma at different brain development stages. So that's also something I will link in the comment section or the notes section below. And so hopefully these two things would be helpful. The freebies and also checking out some of Dr. Bruce Perry's work. They will be helpful in helping you to kind of think about, okay, how do I want to address developmental trauma? So check out the freebie and come back and make sure you subscribe and give me some comments about what you like.